Okay, so this is just a recording I'm doing where basically I'm just going to be talking about this, something in relation to this current pandemic that we're in. And the question I'm going to be trying to, well, not only trying to answer, but giving my opinion on is this virus pandemic a sign from God? Because what you'll notice is that the churches, they will all just come up with their usual rubbish of, oh, God's there to bless you and help you in your job and get a house and car and maybe a wife and children and stuff like that. And most church people have just been hearing that from the church preachers all this time. So of course, when this comes along, they're all surprised thinking, how can God do this? But as we find out in the Bible, for God to do this is just a small thing really. And the church people should just be used to this kind of thing because Israel had to get used to it, that's for sure. So basically I've been, looking at how things have changed since these viruses come along. And from what I'm seeing, it doesn't seem as if it's something that some humans could have planned, because they'd have to be pretty clever to actually know what the outcome would be. And it seems more to me as if this is something which has been planned by someone who's not human, because they know precisely the results of how things are going to happen. And the interesting thing I like about it is the fact that it's the things that we don't need which have been like shut down, like you got the nightclubs, cinemas, all the useless things, and there's the church as well. So what this kind of shows is how useless the current Christian church is, because it got shut down along with the cinemas and nightclubs. Effectively, so that means the government effectively knew that the church is like a nightclub, and that's a good reason for shutting it down. But obviously the things that we need, like the food places, and there's quite a few places just to keep life going as normal, those places were obviously kept open. So that definitely shows you that the church is simply not necessary for the current life you're in, which is a shame. But it shows you how bad a job that these church leaders have been doing. Right. Yeah, and you see, the thing about this is what this pandemic has done, it's caused people to lose the comfortable position that they were in before. Because people thought that they were just going to be on this earth and be able to enjoy themselves. And that's all life is supposed to be. But now it's as if God has sent this to inform people that no, that's not the case. You're actually here for a serious reason. And unless we wake up and actually perform what we're supposed to be doing, then it's just going to be the end, basically. And one way, when you look in the Bible, you can see that this is the case from some of the one main event that actually happened. And this was to do with some people, basically they were the Danites, who were of the children of Israel. And there's a place that they came across. So let's just read about that. Alright, so if we start from verse 7 here, it says, Then the 5 men departed and came to Laish, and saw the people that were therein, how they dwelt careless, after the manner of the Zidonians, quiet and secure, and there was no magistrate in the land that might put them to shame in anything. And they were far from the Zidonians, and had no business with any man. And they came unto their brethren to Zorah and Eshtaol, and their brethren said unto them, What say ye? And they said, Arise, that we may go up against them, for we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And are ye still? Be not slothful to go and to enter to possess the land. When ye go, ye shall come unto a people secure, and to a large land, for God hath given it into our hands, a place where there is no want of anything that is in the earth. And there went from thence of the family of the Danites, and there went from thence of the family of the Danites out of Zorah and out of Eshtaol 600 men appointed with weapons of war. So now, basically, there's just a little bit here where they deal with this sort of Israelite who's turned into a heathen. But I'm going to skip that part because you can read that yourself if you want to. But I'm just going to go straight to verse 27 just to get to the action part. So 27 says, "And they took the things which Micah had made, and the priest which he had, and came unto Laish, unto a people that were at quiet and secure. And they smote them with the edge of the sword, and burnt the city with fire. And there was no deliverer, because it was far from Zidon. And they had no business with, and Alright, let's start again. And they took the things which Micah had made, and the priest which he had, and came unto Laish, unto a people that were at quiet and secure, and smote them with the edge of the sword, and burnt the city with fire. And there was no deliverer, because it was far from Zidon, and they had no business with any man, and it was in the valley that lieth by Bethrehob, and they built a city and dwelt therein. And they called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan their father, who was born unto Israel. Howbeit the name of the city was Laish at the first." So you can see there how the commentator didn't seem too happy at all that Laish was such a sort of lackadaisical place, and even explained the reason why they ended up getting destroyed the way they did. And the interesting thing is that I was listening to something recently where they were describing about how the Muslims attacked the Spanish, and I was a bit surprised to find out that the Spanish were actually pretty much in the same position Laish was. And now here I'm just going to show play like a recording of what a certain scholar had to say about what happened. Basically, this is just a recording from, he was speaking to ABN, and it's just a short part of what he was saying. And basically, this guy's name is Dr Daniel Janosik. Alright, so I'm just going to play that now.
They were unfolding. First, the Chronicles, he said, and eyewitness accounts from this time period record ruthless invasions where churches were pilfered and burned or converted to mosques, all the way up, even across North Africa before the Berbers came across, and then into Spain as these groups came in. And the Spaniards were not prepared. They were fractured in the sense that they were living a life of ease. They had their estates. They were not so concerned about each other, and they really did not have the unity that they needed. So they were conquered pretty easily within about a 10-year period. Now, as the Muslims came in, libraries were burned, just as they were in Zoroastrian Persia and Christian Alexandria. Crosses were destroyed everywhere, wherever they were found. There are even accounts where the leaders, the Muslim leaders, said to the warriors, "Okay, break them up. If they're golden crosses, break them up first, so that they cannot be recognized as crosses, and then pass them out as booty." Morera says that there are religious and political persecutions, inquisitions, beheadings, impalings, and crucifixions that reached a height that had never been seen before in Spain.
Right, and so you heard what he basically said, and notice how similar it was to what I just read there about the people of Laish. So effectively, the Spanish were in the same position as the people of Laish, living a lackadaisical life where they're just all relaxed, enjoying their life because everything was so cozy. And then suddenly the Muslims came along just like the Danites and just destroyed the place. And it's almost as if when people live cozy, God will leave them to live cozy for a while, but then when the time comes, he'll send the destruction. Of course, if they ask God, "Oh, are we living too cozy? Should we do something else?" Then of course God's going to tell them that the destruction is coming. But of course, if they ignore God and decide, "Oh, God's a joke, let's just carry on with our lives and have fun," then of course the destruction is going to come and just hit and just drop on their heads, which is basically what happened to Laish and to the Spanish as well. And, when we see how, things are in the world, obviously people were enjoying themselves. right up until the virus arrived. And now all of the things they could do to enjoy themselves, like cinema, nightclubs, and what else? Sports, going on holiday, that's all been cancelled because of the virus. And now people might say, "Oh, it was, I don't know, some big businessmen decided to do it," and you might think, "Oh, well, so basically they did it so that they could lose a load of money." Okay, sure. And then the other people who are in a lot of trouble, of course, are the atheists, because they're going to have a hard time explaining, how things turned out like this. And you can imagine that the pressure the scientists are on at the moment to try and find a cure for this, but it seems at the moment that they're not doing too well of a job. And you can imagine there's a few atheists out there who are getting a bit worried, thinking if these scientists who they said were so wonderful now can't even handle sort of relatively tame virus, then maybe they're going to have to rethink on who actually runs this world and whether it is the politicians or if there's something else or someone else who they can't see but who's definitely there. Right, so what I was going to do is, and that's the other thing about it, is the clever way in which the virus works. The fact that the reason why it spread so much around the world is because people didn't know they had it. And pretty much every other illness before is like very basic in that you get the symptoms, the doctors know what the symptoms are, so they have an easy time handling. But now suddenly we get hit by a super stealth virus, which seemingly can change the way it affects people. So some people get symptoms, some don't. Some get light symptoms, some get heavy symptoms, some get delayed symptoms. And I'm sure these doctors are very, very confused about what's going on. The one thing we know for sure is that whoever made the virus obviously knows all of this complications and how it's going to be confusing people. But of course, the people, they, after all of this, they're not going to repent. And of course, the scientists are trying their best to work out what to do. But in the end, that it's a simple fact that if this earth belongs to God, then we're going to find out, and trying to deal with this virus is just not going to work as well as we think. But of course, if the earth belongs to the scientists, then they should be able to sort it out, no problem. And so the next one I want to go to is in relation to how the virus actually is sort of disseminated. Because of course, when we read in the Bible, we know that God is the one who's in control of everything, but he has certain agents who actually can do things for him. So this particular virus, we don't know exactly if it was God directly who sent it or if he allowed the Spirit to send it. So what I'm going to read in this next one is just to show you how this system works. So this is Job 2:1. And it says, "Again there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and forth in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God, and escheweth evil? And still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause. And Satan answered the Lord and said, Skin for skin, yea, all that man hath will he give for his life. So we see here Satan making another blundered prediction. But put forth thine hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And you can see, next verse. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes, and said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. So she's been almost like a typical churchwoman. But he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What shall we receive good at the hand of God? And shall we not receive evil? In all this did not Job sin with his lips? So there you have Job being a very sensible man. So of course, if this pandemic hit, Job would not be surprised at all, because he actually understands how God deals with things. And he's not just some weak church person who will just start crying the minute things start to go wrong in a way that they didn't expect. Right, so this is, so the next one I'm going to go to is basically to show that people are just living too careless on this earth, thinking that they can just do whatever they want and just live cozy and that's it, and that somehow they deserve to have their fun and whatever. So this is James 4:13. It says, Go to now ye that say, Today or tomorrow we will go into such a city, and continue there a year, and buy and sell, and get gain. Whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow. That's for true. For what is your life? It is even a vapour that appeareth for a little time, and then vanisheth away. For that ye ought to say, If the Lord will, we shall live, and do this or that. But now you rejoice in your boastings. All such rejoicing is evil. Therefore, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. So this is a pretty classic one, which shows this is what people should be saying. They should say, well, rather than saying, oh, we're going to go do this business and that business, we're going to fly from China over to America, and then we're going to do some big business, get some money, and then fly back. What they should say is, oh, we're going to fly from China, but maybe we might be carrying a virus, which might kill us. So maybe we won't be able to live till the next day. But of course, that's not what they said. They just went around the earth all arrogant, thinking everything was fine. But instead, they were carrying a stealth virus, which, of course, if they'd have asked God, are we in trouble? Then he would have responded eventually to them to give them the bad news. But instead, they arrogantly just decided to ignore God and go and do whatever they wanted, not even thinking that their life was in his hands. And then next some of them are dying from a virus that they decided to transport across the world in their aeroplanes or in their ships as well. And so the next one I'm going to go to is, this is Deuteronomy 32 and 39, and what it says is, See now that I am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. So this plainly shows you one of the things that the church preachers are just going to stay away from and not really tell you. Because all they're ever telling you is, oh, God's there to, like I say, help you, if you're sick, just pray and God will make you well. And if you're short of money, just pray and God will give you money. And if you lost your job, pray and God will give you another job. But then if the preacher started to tell to them, oh, by the way, also, God kills and makes alive, then of course the people will be unhappy and might not give that preacher their money. So of course, this is one of those classic Bible scriptures that the preachers know they have to hide away from their from the congregation members. And so the next one we have is in which people, of course, the preachers know about these verses, but they just know to hide them as well. So this is Isaiah 45:5. And it says, I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee, though thou hast not known me, that they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So there you have it again. God's making it plain that if there's a war, then it's happened because he allowed it. And if there isn't a war, and the people who want to make a war end up dropping dead, then it's God that did it as well. And so if he did all those things, and if suddenly there's a virus and people are dropping dead from it, well, you know where it comes from, isn't it? So anyone who actually takes their Bible seriously knows where this virus came from. But all of those sort of church people and church preachers who just want to joke around, they're just going to keep the information away from their sort of church members just so they can take their money. But of course, that's the other thing that God has shut down. So now they can't get loads of people into a building to take their money anymore. And so now they're struggling, trying to beg people to give them money online. But there's not a lot of people who like all that online business. So it is going to have a big effect on the amount of money that they're making. Right. So the next one I'm going to go to is, this is another classic one that they'll make sure to avoid reading in churches because it's not one of those like happy ones where, it's all singing and clapping. So this is Psalm 78 verse 26. And it says, He caused an east wind to blow in the heaven, and by his power he brought in the south wind. He rained flesh also upon them as dust, and feathered fowls like as the sand of the sea. I was just going to say, this is actually the children of Israel in the wilderness that he's talking about. Just explaining what happened in like Exodus and Numbers. And he let it fall in the midst of their camp round about their habitations. So they eat and were well filled, for he gave them their own desire. They were not estranged from their lust, but while their meat was yet in their mouths, the wrath of God came upon them and slew the fattest of them, and smote down the chosen men of Israel. For all this they sinned still, and believed not for his wondrous works. So the reason why I brought this one out is that one interesting characteristic I've noticed they've mentioned about this this particular SARS coronavirus that has been going around, which is version 2, is that people who are like overweight, it actually seems to attack them more. And so to find out that it actually attacks people who are overweight more than the ones whose weight is more sensible, then when I read this and realized that it said it slew the fattest of them, I thought, oh, that's a bit interesting. So it's like this particular virus has certain characteristics where it matches certain things in the Bible, which is kind of good. And the thing about this is that what this shows plainly is that you can't really say that this particular virus came from any of the other gods, like, the Muslims or Hindus or Sikhs or whatever. Because you know that if you read in their books, that whatever holy books they have, they're not going to say anything about pestilence and, and God attacking in certain ways and going after certain kinds of people. All those books will say is just, good tidings for the believers, and that's it. And, their God will be angry if the believer doesn't believe in them and sort of that usual nonsense. But what the Bible contains is actually proper information about how God operates, so that we can use the Bible to actually see when God is doing something in the earth, which is obviously what we're supposed to do. And then continuing with that theme, I'm just going to end with this last one, which is a bit long, but I'll try and read it as quick as I can. So basically this is Ezekiel 34, and starting from verse 1. And I'm actually going to read all the way through. So it says, And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God unto the shepherds, Woe be to the shepherds of Israel that do feed themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flocks? So I'm going to comment on this one as I go through, just because of how long it is. So this is a good description, of course, of people like Creflo Dollar and T.D. Jakes. Because, of course, you can see T.D. Jakes. He definitely gets a decent amount of food. And even Creflo Dollar used to be a bit lighter before. And you can see even his face is getting a bit more round now as well. So you can see for sure that he's feeding himself. Well, both of them, they're feeding themselves. But the question God's asking here is, shouldn't preachers like that should feed the flocks as well? He says, Ye eat the fat, and ye clothe you with the wool. Ye kill them that are fed, but ye feed not the flock. So what he's saying here is that basically they're living off the sheep, which is what you normally do. But what God is complaining about is that these church leaders are actually living off the people. And then, but then when the people have trouble and they're hungry or they're sick, then, the church leaders don't really care. Just like Joel Osteen keeping his doors shut when there was that hurricane or something. So he isn't, they give him the cash so he gets rich. But the minute they want help from him, he's shutting the door. So that's just typical. So now verse 4 says, the disease have ye not strengthened, neither have ye healed that which was sick. Neither have ye bound up that which was broken, neither have ye brought again that which was driven away. Neither have ye sought that which was lost, but with force and with cruelty have ye ruled them. And this is typical of these pastors when you see them talking about how now their churches are shut, they still need to have their tithe money. And this is and they're even saying people who are poor are supposed to give them that money as well. And that's where the force comes from, by them saying that, oh, if you don't give us this money, then God won't bless you. And, the tithe is 10% and you have to give it. That's the reason why they call it tithe, is to try and force the money out of you. And so, this is typically what's happening in these churches, trying to, and sometimes you hear it where these pastors will like subtly threaten the people when they don't give the money. They'll keep saying these things where it sounds like God is not pleased with them not giving their money to these thieving pastors, basically. And this is the other thing where it says about, neither have you sought that which was lost, is that there's a lot of young men who've left the church, and these pastors don't even bother trying to find out, what's going on with them. All they do is just carry on with the people who stay and, just continue giving them entertainment. And verse 5 says, and they were scattered because there is no shepherd, and they became meat to all the beasts of the field when they were scattered. So that's now the younger people who leave the church, who they're with their parents at church, but of course the older people, because the younger people who are there don't fall in line with what the old people expect. Of course, they just ignore them and allow them to go out in the world and just get devoured by the people who are out there. And so effectively, the beasts of the field are like the nightclubs, the drug dealers, etc., who then take all the young sort of men and women from the churches and sort of take their money and do all kinds of evil things with them. But the reason why those young people leave the church is because they know that the people in the church are not interested in them. Whereas, of course, the beasts of the field are interested in them, or makes it seem like they're interested. But, of course, the beasts are only interested in actually eating them up. So 6 says, my sheep wandered through all the mountains, and upon every high hill, yea, my flock was scattered upon all the face of the earth. My sheep wandered through all the mountains, and upon every high hill. Yea, my flock was scattered upon all the face of the earth, and none did search or seek after them. Therefore, ye shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As I live, saith the Lord God, surely because my flock became a prey, and my flock became meat to every beast of the field, because there was no shepherd, neither did my shepherds search for my flock. But the shepherds fed themselves, and fed not my flock, which we know that's what the old Creflo and TD and all those other sort of rich pastors like to do. They make sure they get good meals and, live in fancy houses, but then the people just have to be poor, isn't it? Therefore, O ye shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against the shepherds, and will require my flock at their hand, and cause them to cease from feeding the flock. Neither shall the shepherds feed themselves any more, for I will deliver my flock from their mouth, that they may not be meat for them. And it looks like this, what's happening now with this virus, this virus pandemic, because basically all the church people were coming in and giving their money to these church pastors so that they could feed themselves. But now God has sent the virus and closed all the churches. So of course, for the time being, the flock has been delivered from their mouths. And they're not being meat to these pastors anymore, which is pretty impressive. But, you just wonder, is this going to be a permanent thing where God's really going to permanently deliver them? Or is it just a temporary one so that we just get a little bit of respite? Then, of course, things will then go back to normal. And, of course, the pastors will gladly bring all their brainwashed people back in to take their money. But anyway, we get this, so the flock has been delivered temporarily or permanently from the mouths of these pastors, and they're not meat for them at the moment. So verse 11 says, "For thus saith the Lord God, behold, even I, will both search my sheep, and seek them out, as a shepherd seeketh out his flock in the day that he is among his sheep that are scattered. So will I seek out my sheep, and will deliver them out of all places where they have been scattered in the cloudy and dark day. And I will bring them out from the people, and gather them from the countries, and will bring them to their own land, and feed them upon the mountains of Israel by the rivers, and in all the inhabited places of the country. I will feed them in a good pasture, and upon the high mountains of Israel shall their fold be. There shall they lie in a good fold, and in a fat pasture shall they feed upon the mountains of Israel." And so this is actually how it's supposed to be. You see, the people of God aren't supposed to be going to some dry entertainment churches and then having their money taken by some rich pastor to feed themselves. No, it's God who's supposed to be looking after them, really. Problem is most people don't want God to look after them. Why? Because they'd have to keep his commandments, of course. And so, because they don't want to keep his commandments, of course, they have to just stay as slaves, underneath their taskmasters and under these thieving pastors. So verse 15, "I will feed my flock, and will cause them to lie down, saith the Lord God. I will seek that which was lost, and bring again that which was driven away, and will bind up that which was broken, and will strengthen that which was sick. But I will destroy the fat and the strong, I will feed them with judgment." So there you have again the fat people, they're going to be having a hard time. So it looks like there's a lot of people who are a bit overweight. They better, get out walking and lose some weight before God makes his return, because you can see straight here that the fat are going to be destroyed. So it's not that, I know some people, when they're fat, it's actually an illness that causes that, but you can still get over it. Yeah, you have to be a bit strong psychologically, I admit that. But it's something that obviously people who are overweight, you definitely need to take more seriously to make sure they lose that weight before God returns. "And as for you, O my flock, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I judge between cattle and cattle, between the rams and the he-goats. Seemeth it a small thing unto you to have eaten up the good pasture, but ye must tread down with your feet the residue of your pastures, and to have drunk of the deep waters, but ye must foul the residue with your feet. And as for my flock, they eat that which ye have trodden with your feet, and they drink that which ye have fouled with your feet. Therefore thus saith the Lord God unto them, behold, I will judge between the fat cattle and between the lean cattle." So we can see here, obviously, there's certain people who are taking advantage of other people and leaving them to basically live off the dregs of life. And of course they think that, that's fun and games, because the thing about it is, even though it's the pastors, these church pastors and leaders are just taking the money and thieving the money from people, you have people themselves who are like, treating each other badly as well. So even though the pastors are going to get dealt with, and the people who are mistreating each other, they're going to get dealt with as well. So obviously this is going to be a proper dealt with time. And so 21 says, "Because ye have thrust with side and with shoulder, and pushed all the disease with your horns, so that ye have scattered them abroad. Therefore will I save my flock, and they shall no more be a prey, and will judge between cattle and cattle. And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them. Even my servant David, he shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd." And we know who that shepherd is from what Jesus said to the disciples. "And I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David a prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken it. And I will make with them a covenant of peace, and will cause the evil beast to cease out of the land, and they shall dwell safely in the wilderness, and sleep in the woods. I will make them and the places round about my hill a blessing, and I will cause the shower to come down in his season. There shall be showers of blessing. And the tree of the field shall yield her fruit, and the earth shall yield her increase. And they shall be safe in their land, and ye shall know that I am the Lord, when I have broken the bands of their yoke, and delivered them out of the hand of those that served themselves of them. And they shall no more be a prey to the heathen, neither shall the beasts of the land devour them, but they shall dwell safely, and none shall make them afraid. So that's an easy way of finding out who the children of Israel are, because God is plainly saying that it's whichever people on the earth are like being taken advantage of by the other people in the earth, then, well, they must be the children of Israel then, because what it's saying here is that there is a people on this earth who are being prey to another set of people who are heathen. So all you got to do is open your eyes and look around you to find out what's going on and know who the prey are and who the heathen are. But as you can see here, God is going to be delivering them from those heathen, and so that they can dwell safely. And he says, and 29 says, and I will raise up for them a plant of renown, and they shall be no more consumed with hunger in the land, neither bear the shame of the heathen any more. So no longer will those heathen who are ruling over them at the moment be able to control them, and be able to, corrupt their minds so that they behave like them. Because at the moment, everyone pretty much has to behave like a heathen because, there's nothing much else to do. But when this time comes, of course, all of that having to behave like the heathen stuff will go away, finally. And then people will be able to see how they should actually be behaving. And so verse 30 says, thus shall they know that I, the Lord their God, am with them, and that they, even the house of Israel, are my people, saith the Lord God. And ye my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men, and I am your God, saith the Lord God. So there you have it. That's the end of the Bible verses that we're going to bring. So hopefully, if there's anyone who's managed to listen till now, because I know usually when you do a recording, most people always give up after like 5 minutes because they just want to go and watch TV or something. But basically, time's going to come when those people are going to wish they had actually listened for longer than 5 minutes to, what some people are saying. But in the end, that's how it always is going to be, that there's going to be some people who won't listen and some people who will. So if there's anyone who's listened up to here, I'll just say thanks for listening, and then, you can just subscribe if you want to sort of, listen or see anything else that I might be able to come out with. And hopefully anyone who's listened this far will have got something from this and understood that this world that we're living in, it's not a world that we made. It was someone else who made it, and we're here like as guests pretty much. And if we want to actually get anything out of this life, then we have to actually get in touch with the who it is that we're the guests of, so that we can know the proper things that we should be doing. Okay, see you.